Hey guys, today we're going to try out some of this Brilliance laser spray for marking metal with a laser. Now it says that it's for use with CO2 fiber and YAG lasers. All I've got is a diode laser. I do have a 20 watt and I've got a 36 watt. I've got an atom stack 20 watt and an Atezr 36 watt laser. And if you're not familiar with these laser sprays, there's about 5 or 6 different sprays that people use to mark metal with. For the price and quality that I've seen online, this Brilliance stood out to me, so that's why I went with this, and we're going to give this a try. I've got a piece of regular type metal here. I'm not sure the exact alloy or the grade, but a magnet sticks to it, so I know it's not stainless. The magnet sticks very good to it, so I know it's not stainless. Some stainless metals, the magnet will have some attraction to, but this is definitely not stainless steel. Now, this says that it's for CO2, fiber, and YAG lasers. I've got a diode laser. I don't see why that won't work. I think the reason they don't put diode on here is because when this came out, however many years ago, diode lasers was so underpowered that you probably didn't get a lot of effect with this. But now that you've got 20 and 36 watt lasers, and even more powerful than that, in a diode laser, diode lasers should be fine, because they're CO2 lasers that's just right at 36 watts. But anyway, I did do a test piece already. Now, this side over here is the Atezr. This side on the right is the atom stack. Now, the first thing that we can see here is that at 1%, which was the minimum that I put for my power, I put 1 to 50% was my power range. At 1%, you can see that it didn't do anything. Now, the atom stack, at 1%, again, nothing. And at the 6.4%, nothing, all the way up the chain. Now, the speed was 1,000 to 6,000. And by the way, this is the same exact file. So I originally was just going to do this just with the Atezr, since it's more powerful. Whenever I got this effect, all the way from 6.4%, even at 6,000 millimeters per minute, I was still getting a pretty good, I'd say a grayish burn. But then whenever we went up to the 11.9, it's very black at 6,000 millimeters per minute. So I thought, well, let me just use that same identical file with no modification in the atom stack and see what the atom stack, how it stacks up. Now, the 6.4 didn't do anything. Well, you can kind of see at the 1,000 millimeters per minute. You can actually see just a little tiny hint of an effect, but once it went up to 1,500, nothing. But the atom stack actually did pretty good, at 22, what is that, 22.8, it's very black right here at the 1,000, and even at 6,000 millimeters per minute, whenever you get up here to, the last three, which is 39, 44, and 50% power, very black. But the Atezr, obviously, with more power, did better across the board. Now, the one thing that you may notice here is with an increase in power, we really didn't get blacker burn. It's kind of more discolored, but your most blacks was, let's see if I can see here, at about 17, and I'd say 22% up here in this range at 6,000 millimeters per minute. As you went over, it started getting lighter. So don't think that the more power you put to it, the blacker it's going to burn. That's I've just noticed that on this test piece. So I'm actually going to, the test piece that we're going to do, I've got a fresh piece of metal here. And what my plan is just as an experiment, We're going to spray half of it with this not half, a third of it with this Brilliance. I was going to paint a third of it with this stuff, which is what you use on glass, and then just leave a third of it untreated at all, unpainted. And then I'm also going to use some of this Brilliance on a mirror, and we're going to see both these different coatings, this Brilliance and this stuff here, which I forget exactly what they call this stuff. This is a water-based paint. Oh, tempera paint, yeah. Ready-to-use tempera paint is what that is. And this tempera paint works miracles on glass. I don't know if this is going to do anything at all. But anyway, so I'm going to base my settings off this. I'll probably on the Atezr, I don't know what I'm going to go with. 3200 millimeters per minute, and at maybe about, I'll probably just do 17 because it looks like that's a pretty good compromise. The one thing that you may not be able to see in the mirror or in the camera is the faster it goes, and I have to look at this with a magnifying glass. The slower the laser, the more accurate. So whenever this was painting, not necessarily painting, but burning this metal, you can see that the edges are a little bit more crisp at slower speeds than at higher speeds. At higher speeds, you can kind of see a little bit of overburn, because it's going faster. It's having to shut the laser on and off, as it reverses its direction. And so you start getting just a little bit more overburn on the edges. So if I was really wanting to make a very accurate burn, I would do a line around the fill. I'd do another layer and I'd do a line burn around the fill layer. That way you should get a more crisp edge around the fill layer. So let's do that. I'm going to tape this off. I won't necessarily show well, I will, because you kind of need to know just how little it actually takes of this Brilliance whenever you paint your project. So I'm going to go ahead and just set that there, and I'm going to take another piece of paper and just lay over it. You just, a light coat, just about like that. That's all you need. Notice it is white. You do want to spray this in a ventilated area. The EPA or FDA, whichever one deems things carcinogens, does deem this to be a carcinogen. So you don't want to be breathing it in any more than you need to. Now I'm just going to brush the tempera on. I would like to spray it, but I'm not going to fire up my airbrush to spray that little bit. So I'm just going to give us a brush. I'm going to let that dry just a little bit more. And I'm just going to, the burn that I'm going to do is going to go over the entire thing. So we should be able to see a direct effect.
Okay, there's the tempera. And then this section I'm going to leave uncoated. So I'm going to let this dry. We're going to turn the camera back on. And then I'll have the file loaded up that we're going to use to burn this. And then we're going to get started. Alright guys, so this is what we're going to burn. This is kind of a, well, it's a grayscale design. It looks almost like a Damascus type blade design. And if you look at the settings here, I've got 3,500 millimeters per minute, max power of 13%, and a minimum power of 1%. So I'm curious to see, and we've got grayscale, actually, yeah, we got grayscale selected right here. And I'm curious to see how it is able to paint the you know, the lighter shades versus the darker shades. Because if you remember, at about between 3,200 and 3,700, we had some nice blacks there, even at 11.9%, and nothing at 1%. So we should be able to get some shading between 1% and 13%. Actually, I think I'm going to change this to 12. Could probably even go a little bit lower than that. But anyway, this is what we're going to go with. Just going to see if I can get that burnt and see what it's going to look like from no Brilliance to the tempera and the Brilliance spray. And then we're going to see how durable it is. And then we'll try some glass. Alright guys, I got the test piece up here. I've just done a frame. It is running off the piece just a little bit, but that's okay. We'll just let it run off. So I'm going to go ahead and hit start. And we're going to let her go. And I'll time lapse this as it goes. I'm going to be interested to see if that tempera does anything at all on the metal. You can see that it's actually doing a little bit to that metal even without any kind of coating down. But let me go get the other camera so I can time lapse it. Alright guys, it's done. The nice thing about both the tempera and the Brilliance sprays is watch how easy they come off. A little bit of water. The Brilliance is already off there. Tempera, a little scrubbing. And there we go. Let me dry it off and we're going to see just how durable it is. Okay, so here the final product is, and you can see how much nicer that Brilliance is compared to the other two. Now, the tempera, it's not as consistent as even the uncoated. You can see more of the uncoated, and you can see the entire square right there. Of course, it's very light. Of course, it was only 12, what was it, 12% power. The tempera, it's already kind of faded away down here. It's got some shade up here. Doesn't appear to be rubbing off with finger pressure. And the Brilliance is just nice and black. I mean, it actually did a nice job. And remember, that's 12% power on steel.
fingernail definitely will not take it off. Let me get something, and we're going to scrub on that and see how durable it is. Okay, I found a piece of 800 grit sandpaper, and we're just going to scrub on it with some 800 grit and see how it holds up. Definitely coming off, but I am having to scrub on it quite a bit with that 800 grit sandpaper. So I could probably end up polishing that completely off if I really wanted to. But for the most part, that's pretty impressive. 12% power, Brilliance ink spray. So this was the tempera. Obviously, no reason to even try it because it's virtually non-effective. Nothing at all. You do have a shade there. I don't know if you crank the power up even higher, if you would get a more black permanent engraving on metal. Now this is the problem with engraving, laser engraving on metal. Now if you take a look at this, this is actually slightly concave, and that's the way it originally was. You might be able to see it better on this end. This is just got a slight concave shape to it, and it really didn't deform much on this, that 12% power. This was the same type of piece, and it's actually bowed the other way. It's kind of flattened out here, even though this was concave also. And of course this went anywhere from 1 to 50% on both ends. So one reason you would not want to just crank the power up on metal is because you're inducing heat into it, and there's the possibility of warping it. So, that's one reason you want to stick with as low a power as you can get by with. So I'm going to get a piece of glass set up, and we're going to do the same exact thing. I'm just going to use the Brilliance. Well, no, I'm going to use the Brilliance and the tempera, because tempera works good on glass. And we're going to see how they both stack up on a piece of glass. Okay guys, so I've got the mirror set up, got the Brilliance right here, tempera right here, and the same design. It's just going to go right there. I'm going to use the same exact file, so it is a grayscale, varying from power from 1, either 12 or 13, I can't remember. And that may not be enough power to do glass. We're going to find out. We're going to see if the tempera does glass really well, but I can't remember what the power settings were. I have not done glass on the Atezr, but I've done it on the Atom Stack. And I mean, it engraves glass great, but I can't remember what power settings I used on the Atom Stack. So obviously 12 or 13% power here on the Atezr is going to be more than what, it'd probably be close to 20% on the Atom Stack, but we're going to find out. So we're going to hit engrave, go over here, I'm going to select the actual file. I'm going to frame it to make sure that we're not going to get in. You don't want to try to engrave directly on a untreated mirror, because you can get reflection back to the laser, and it'll actually destroy your laser. So let's just make sure that yep, I actually hit play instead of frame. So okay, that's good. Yeah, that's going to be fine. Okay, we'll let it go. I'll time lapse it so that we can watch it in fast-paced mode. Alright guys, she finished up. So let's rinse this stuff off and see how we did.
So both etched. I can feel a lot more etching on the Brilliance side. So yeah, you can kind of see. This is why I like to spray that tempera paint. You can kind of see some streaking in it. That's because I didn't have good coverage whenever I brushed it on. If you spray it out of a little airbrush, it's a perfectly even coat, and you get a nice even engrave. I don't know if you can see this particular spot right there. That was a pretty nice even, engraving on this glass. Whereas right here, these lines, that's just where it was super thin, because when I brushed it on, you can see some lines right here too. Hopefully you guys can see those. And then the Brilliance side, I can actually feel the Brilliance is really rough. The tempera, man, it's nice and smooth. You can just barely feel a little bit of etching on the glass. The tempera, it's almost like even that 12% was maybe a little too much power, because it kind of feels like it's I don't know where it was where it was hitting it with the laser. It was like busting the glass out. It's just a real rough texture. But they both did it. I mean, they both did a good job. I personally think if I use that Brilliance on glass, I would have to experiment around with it a little bit more. I'm going to try to get the perfect angle to where you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Hopefully you can kind of see the roughness of the etching from this point out this way. That Brilliance was sprayed on, and this is the tempera. Yeah, I'd probably want to lower the power using that Brilliance and see if that actually would help. Let me see if I can get just the right angle. Let's go over here. Anyway, I think Brilliance works great, especially if you spray it on a nice even coat. That Brilliance on glass, it definitely works too, but since it's a little bit rough, I don't like it as well. But anyway, Brilliance versus tempera on glass. The Brilliance works miracles on metal. Anyway, we're pretty much done here. This video's probably gotten way too long anyway. So anyway, you guys take care. We'll see you.